South Africa has approved booster shots against COVID-19 as the Omicron variant drives up infections. The country is facing its fourth coronavirus wave. In just 1 week, the rate of positive COVID-19 cases rose from 2 to 25%. The unprecedented surge follows the detection of the new variant here in late November.
I had a bit of a panic when I heard about the new variant, Omicron, so it was, a bit terrifying, not because I was looking forward to seeing family and friends over the festive season. And when I saw the vaccine drive today, it was kind of a relief.
Research so far suggests that the Omicron variant is no worse than other coronavirus strains. The number of COVID-19 related deaths remains low. But most countries that impose travel bans on southern African nations have maintained restrictions. President CYRIL RAMAPHOSA has led vocal criticism.
As South Africa, we stand firmly against any form of health apartheid in the fight against this pandemic.
The bans hit South Africa's tourism industry hard at the start of its busiest season, the Southern Hemisphere summer. The economy already contracted in the third quarter this year, following virus restriction measures and deadly riots in July that spooked foreign investors. The Gambia's President Adama Barrow won re-election for a second term in office. Barrow obtained 53% of the votes in polls held on December 4th.
I call on all Gambians, irrespective of our political divide, to push aside our political and other differences and come together as one people to work towards the development of our country.
Turnout was 87% of the electorate. Opposition leader OUSAINOU DARBOE came a far second with 27.7% of the vote.
We are not happy with the results. But not being happy with the result doesn't mean that we have to adopt measures that run contrary to the law. If our lawyers advise us that there is case to present in court, we will present the case in court.
Barrow narrowly beat dictator Yahya Jammeh in the 2016 elections. Jammeh initially rejected the results, then fled into exile after 22 years in office. He still has widespread support. Barrow set out his government's agenda shortly after the poll results.
I assure you and the whole world and all Gambians that we will have a new constitution and we will have term limit and absolute majority.
But what to do about crimes committed under Jammeh's regime? A Truth and Reconciliation Commission lacked the power to prosecute perpetrators. Barrow also has not yet committed to follow through on its recommendations. Mariama Balde is the widow of a Jammeh-era victim.
Justice has to be done, or have to be served. This is what we are expecting from the TRRC report. But the fact that it is going to be implemented by the president or the government, that is the question mark, and that is my fear. It was a very nice day.
Forces allied to Ethiopia's government have taken back the historical city of Lalibela, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in the north of the country. Over 4 months of deprivation and violence, Tigrayan rebels looted homes and health facilities. Residents lost touch with the outside world due to cuts in transportation, electricity, banking and communications. They were careful to speak on camera. This ethnic Amhara militiaman who fought for the government says they were welcomed on entering the city.
The people were suffering and humiliated, and they lived under a burden. They have started to move freely and come outside after the government-allied militiamen and Amhara special forces arrived here and celebrated by firing shots in the air.
Lalibela is famous for its 11 medieval churches cut out of the rock. One Orthodox Christian worshipper credits the Lalibela monastery administrator for protecting their holy site.
With the help of our father TSIGE, not a single bullet was fired towards the churches. They respect him, and destruction did not happen because of him.
AFP was the first independent media outlet to reach the city. With a communications blackout in combat zones and access for journalists restricted, it is difficult to know the true status of the year-long war. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed announced he was returning to the capital, Addis Ababa, after spending 2 weeks on the front lines. The government claims the counter-offensive against the Tigray People's Liberation Front was successful in the Amhara region, including the recapture of 2 key towns.
In addition to many strategic locations that have been taken over by the National Defense Forces over the past 2 weeks, yesterday's feat is a strong blow to the terrorist groups that is currently in disarray.
The rebel leaders, however, deny that the government has regained military advantage.
Stanislas Damiba was only 12 years old when he was sent to Cuba by the father of Burkina Faso's revolution, Thomas Sankara. He was one of 600 young people from poor backgrounds, most of them orphans, who were to study on Fidel Castro's island to learn to build their country.
Thomas Sankara was a father and remains a father, as we call him today, our spiritual father. And he said this: study well to come and develop your country. And he also said that you must have a revolutionary belly. This meant that whatever the host country served, you had to eat, because the revolutionary adapts at any time and in any place. And right after that, he was killed. Thomas Sankara's assassination and his successor Blaise Compaore's rise to power shattered the dreams of those known as Thomas Sankara's orphans. The new regime forbade them from studying and cut off funding. Everything we should have had as a scholarship, as training, was flatly wiped out. This revolutionary ideal was simply killed in its infancy, and us with it. Most of the orphans have returned to Burkina Faso. Their education is, however, not recognized in their home country. Many failed to get jobs in the public service sector, as was promised to them. Damiba found work in the private sector and is now a civil engineering technician. He runs an association to fight for compensation, especially for his less fortunate peers. Today we mourn 85 of our comrades who have died, some by suicide, 245 who are in the civil service and underemployed, and 460 who are effectively unemployed. The Burkinabe Reconciliation Body is currently hearing a case that could lead to official recognition of the failed experiment. While the orphans of the revolution hope for reparations, a trial has started at last of those accused of their spiritual father's killing 34 years later.